Dan, so great to have you here. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us here.
Thanks, Brian.
Dan, I'm going to start with the kind of a key question here. What inspired the creation of Runic? Walk us through the founding story, talk about the problem you're solving, and how generative AI uniquely helps solve that.
Sure. So I've been in social listening ever since 2010. I started as an analyst and I had to parse through large volumes of data with keywords and really inexact methods for understanding what people think about products, brands, services, even categories. And it was a highly manual, arduous task, often with inaccurate data. We found generative AI early last year, so well before the hype cycle. And when we found it, we realized the transformational capacity that this technology has to solve this problem that I and the whole industry, every brand that has a stake in what people think about it, we can really solve this problem with generative AI. It can understand meaning, it can understand context. You can get really exact metrics and then go a step further too. And it can give you recommendations and even content based on what people are saying about you, the things that your brand cares about, as well as the goals, things that you're looking to achieve. So it's offering us a whole new level of speed and accuracy that was never before possible.
So imagine a day in the life of an e-commerce professional, a marketer, someone who's working in social, probably, 5 years in the future. What does that sort of workflow and job look like? How is it different? And how does Runic fit into that?
Yeah, so 5 years from now, AI it's already started to permeate our work life, but people are going to have really fluid AI assistants helping them in every facet of their work life, from telling them what's being said on Slack about things that pertain to their workload, all the way to understanding, in our case, and in Runic's case, how your brand is being perceived, what relevant things are happening in let's say, in e-commerce, technologies that are being incorporated, relevant news stories, how your competition is being discussed. And you can use AI to get an edge in the narrative around your company, understanding what your customers are talking about and looking for. And you can respond incredibly quickly and incredibly precisely with this technology. We're not replacing that marketer's function. We're allowing them to do their jobs more efficiently and faster.
Probably understand their sort of engagement with their customers in a richer way, and dig in, right?
Absolutely. With AI, you can quickly understand what's being said, and you spend less time working on metrics, trying to figure out an accurate picture. The AI is taking care of that for you, leaving you to make creative, effective decisions about what to do with those insights.
So my next question is kind of an interesting one. Obviously, lots of concerns out there in the media, and certainly, many people that you probably talk to at the weekend barbecue or over the fence with your neighbors and what have you. People concerned about generative AI. One of the concerns is very naturally kind of connected to what you're doing at Runic, and that is bias in the systems, or how the training data or how the interactions might, demonstrate bias, or even, potentially be abused by some downstream. I'm interested in how you're addressing that and thinking about that with Runic, and love to hear more about that.
Yeah, so that's a great question. There are a couple areas where we have to be very careful when we're creating models to avoid bias. Something that we really take care to monitor is when we're training a model, we want to be very careful about what kind of data goes into that. So if you put in a biased data set, the AI is going to reflect the findings of that data set. So we're very careful when we're doing things like, let's say, creating synthetic data using generative AI. It's going to reflect the biases that are in the training set. So what we do to then train that is we actually use real conversations from people. We're not relying on the AI to create its own topics and themes and try to guess what people are saying. We take real training data from real people on social media, and we use that to train our models. And that helps avoid any kind of inherent biases in the training data set. And it's a huge problem, and one that anyone using AI will have to be very cognizant of in responsible applications and use of the technology.
But on the flip side, I can imagine that understanding slang, language, like the culture and kind of background people are coming with, and obviously how fast things are evolving, these tools, because they are leveraging machine learning and so forth, can also adapt very quickly and in a way kind of normalize that, right? Whereas before, there may have been things that were being missed rather easily from different communities and what have you, um, because there was a finite number of keywords that were being leveraged, or because of the business process involved in doing the analysis. So it's both. There's two sides to the coin, right? There's the dangers associated with this, which you address, but also there's the opportunity, which these technologies kind of afford, that in a sense may make it more equitable.
Exactly. So, as you said, if there's a keyword limitation or something like that, the great thing about AI is that you're not limited by the imagination of the analyst or the user trying to analyze this data. The AI can capture all of that stuff. And so it's a really inclusive, holistic way of looking at data, looking at insights, being able to find things that you wouldn't have thought to look for and then quantify them so that you can understand how big a deal this is or how big an opportunity this is. So it's removing, in a way, human bias from the equation in some regards. So it's an area where you have to be really careful. You have to mitigate against inherent biases in the training data, but it also affords you opportunities to get exposed to insights, knowledge about your company, your brand, your competitors that you would never have had access to before, even maybe thought to think about before.
Completely agree. Talk about your kind of ideal customer, who you're best positioned to serve out in the market, who you tend to work with. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, so our ideal customer, marketing teams, teams looking to understand their brand, PR teams, really understanding what's being said about my brand, my category, and how do people perceive us? How do people perceive our competitors? And whether you're a large enterprise company that's looking to advance share of voice in a competitive set for a certain product, or you're a startup looking to break into a B2C or even B2B market, you can use Runic to understand how are we being talked about, how are we moving the needle in public perception of our company, and where can we improve on it. You can even use Runic to help come up with content ideas, recommendations. It can even make suggestions on your product roadmap based on what people are saying. And the power of this platform is tremendous, and we see our customers gaining incredibly quick value and extremely high value from this data, from these insights.
Wonderful. Where do you see Runic in 5 years?
So we see Runic as a platform that can understand anything that the public is saying about anything at any given time and quantify it robustly with accurate metrics. Whether that is people talking about a brand, something more kind of abstract like banking regulations, understand how that space has evolved. I could even see Runic being used to combat misinformation, which is a persistent problem among social media platforms. With our generative AI capabilities, we have the capacity to understand meaning and how people share ideas and converse. And it's allowing us a set of tools that have never been finer in understanding and parsing out meaning and how people talk to each other. So anything that's being said anywhere, we can understand that, we can quantify it, we can provide insight around it, and we can offer recommendations and content on what to do about it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dan, again for joining us here today, sharing more about Runic. I look forward to following you and seeing how things evolve from here. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks for including us, and we're excited to be part of this.